Here is a Scaleauto Home Series car, denoted by the fact that it has a nylon chassis. And what we're going to do is we're going to modify it so that it will run okay on wooden track. So first of all, we're going to take the 4 screws out that hold the body to the chassis. They're 1.5 Allens. We use the Wera screwdrivers or Allen drivers. I've already taken 3 of them out. So there's your body off. So there's the chassis. It's a good chassis. It's not quite what their racing chassis. It's but what's called a ladder. You undo these and by putting the screws in different positions, you can lengthen or shorten the chassis. You can also cut these pieces here and then mount a suspension kit to make the pod, like the rear axle motor assembly, twist, which gives you more grip. But what we're going to do today is we're going to just set it up so as it will run on a wood track. Right now, as you can probably see, the guide is very slim. It's because it's designed to run on a plastic home track, but we're going to take the guide out. You'll probably need a pair of pliers to get it out. We've already done that, so I thought we had. There we go. So out comes the guide. Very simple. Why I say pliers, you have to squeeze these tips tightly together while you pull it out. All right, and then we're going to pull these out. I'm not a big fan of these. I usually use 2mm grub screws, so we get rid of this. It is very small. What we're going to use instead is this, which is a BRM guide, much deeper, suitable to use on a wooden track. So get rid of that one. All right. Well, the nice thing about the BRM guide is it fits right in there. But now, what is it like ride height for the front wheels? And we're looking about, we need a lot of adjustment. But thankfully, this chassis is adjustable here, and then you'd have to slide this forward. You can put screws in. I don't know if you can see it, but there's screws here. They're hidden by this plate that will allow you to ride up or rise up the axle. So what we're going to do is a simple version here. We're going to fit this guide in the chassis because it will allow us to run on a wood track. You can also shim the guide. BRM makes 0.2mm and they make 0.3mm shims to allow you to shim the guide down. In fact, we'll open this one up because certainly we're going to need some shims. And the shims are going to go below the guide to rest on the chassis. So basically what we're going to do is shim this guide to allow it to sit further down in the chassis. Okay, so that's our first thing. And that's going to go here, and the guide will sit lower down in the chassis. And the next thing which we get from complete BRM, which is BRM S-026SS pickup guide assembly, comes complete with braid and comes also with a screw and a spring. We've already got the guide, so we don't need that. It comes with a screw and a spring because BRM often uses springs to allow the guide to stay in contact with the slot even when the car leans. It's certainly worth trying it. It's something that I didn't believe worked, but after trying it I found it did. But anyway, we already have a guide in here. What we were hunting in that bag for is this piece, which is a screw, and this is going to fit down in here, again using the Wera 1.5 driver. We're going to wind it down into the BRM guide. You may need to put some spacers above, or what we often use is O-rings to stop this from screwing all the way in and becoming solid. Right now it is pretty tight in there. BRM makes little O-rings. Here's some here. There's a little bit of O-ring there, which we'll show you how. You can put it on the top to take up the space up top, so as you don't over tighten the guide screw. You can also use spacers on the top if you wish. I'm going to use this, and we'll use one of these excellent BRM screws here. Put the guide back in. Put this assembly in. Now we're going to tighten it down. Tighten it down till it locks up, so it binds, and we're going to back it off a hair till we've got a free moving guide. There you go. So that's your guide, and we can now see, and a good way of testing a guide is if I press down on here, do the rear wheels lift up? Well, they do right now, but we're going to put braid in. Obviously that will take up some of that downward movement. And what we're going to do here, put the braid in, and then I bend it over like that. Why do I do that? Is because these pieces, which hopefully, yeah, they didn't, Scaleauto didn't trap. And with another wrench, didn't prepare myself for this. Okay, we'll use this wrench. We're going to open up the space behind the braid and put this lead wire. You will need to twist it. Do not solder them. Don't tin them. I don't know why certain manufacturers tin them, because they'll break right where the tinning ends. You just push it in, and then we're going to find the grub screws that BRM gives us, and this is a much preferable way of holding the guide in place and the braid in place. Wind this in until it traps the braid and the wire, and now we have a connection. Now you can, before it just reaches tightness, just pull down on the braid to get that extra piece that I left up there, which could potentially be a short. I leave it up there while I'm making that channel for the lead wires from the motor. So there's one side. Okay, this one, we'll take off that horrible eyelet. I really do not like those. We'll get our braid. We'll put our braid in here, taking care not to splay it out. Using normally a brad. I'm using an Allen wrench right now. That's okay. Go down behind that, and then we'll find the other grub screw that came with the BRM S-026SS guide kit. I'll wind that in, and this time I'm going to remember to pull the braid down before I clamp it all up. I put it down so we're not any potentials of a short. Right here, there's potential of a short if you've got a lot of excess braid there. Don't have to overly tighten them up. Tighten them up until it pinches the braid against the wire. You never want the wire in front because it will get cut by the screw. So now it doesn't lift, and so we have a much better commercial style guide. These cars will then run much better. I mean, that's the first thing. We'll do a series of what you can do on this chassis, because you can do a lot of work with this. You can make it very competitive. It won't ever be quite as good as this chassis, which is the chassis I prefer, the ladder chassis. They've made later ones. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the carbon fibre ones, but this is still a very good chassis, and we'll work on Carrera track. If you're going to run it on Carrera track, I recommend cutting that square there and then radius in the tip. You'll probably find also you need about 1 millimetre shaved off the bottom, because this guide is deep enough for commercial tracks. So that's it. That would be the Home Series car, now fit to run on a wood track. All we got to do now is put the 4 screws back in. And if you leave the screws slightly loose, you'll find the car will handle better. If you tighten them all the way up, it binds all the body up. So tighten them up and then back them off a little bit. Anyway, so that's it. That's what you could do. So you'd need this, which is a BRM S-026SS. You'd need a pack of the BRM shims, which is S-026SB. You'd need rubber O-rings. These are S-0130. And if you get the braid kit, or the whole kit, it comes with the braid. So now this is ready to run.